News at 11.
Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko, and we begin tonight with new details in the search for a suspected shooter still on the run after he allegedly sprayed a southeast Portland apartment with gunfire. Alma McCarty's in the newsroom tonight, and Alma, we should mention both the little girl and her uncle will be okay.
Yeah, David, one of the shooting victims agreed to speak with us if we didn't show his face or share his name. He told me what started as a knock on his apartment door quickly took a turn as he and his niece attempted to dodge nearly 24 bullets shot through the door and through the walls.
This is the man Portland police say opened fire Tuesday night at an East Burnside apartment complex. 36-year-old Rashad Calbert, accused of indiscriminately firing shots that hit an 11-year-old girl and her uncle.
He's like, "You're not going to open the door?" And I said no, and then they just started opening fire.
The victim, who KGW agreed not to identify out of his concerns for his and others' safety, was shot in the hand.
I got hit, I turned and I ran in here, and I was on the phone with my father, actually. I dropped the phone and ran in here because my niece was sitting right here and she had no idea what was going on. She was freaking out because she'd been hit. And she's like, it burns. She's like, "Call the cops." And I was trying to call the cops and I couldn't function or use my hand. So she ended up having to call the police.
Both uncle and niece went to the hospital. And while they're both now recovering at home, the shock and the pain linger.
There's a special place in hell for people like him.
And it appears Calbert may have been targeting the man's sister. Court records show the suspect was arrested on domestic violence charges back in November, accused of hitting the woman, the 11-year-old's mother, with a baseball bat. Charges were dismissed in December. The family speaking out in the hopes it helps police catch Calbert.
You're going to shoot up children, you're definitely a dangerous man and you have no business being on the streets.
If anyone has information about the suspect's whereabouts or more details about the shooting, you're encouraged to call police. We've got more information plus the case number up on KGW.com. David?
Such a disturbing story. Alma McCarty reporting tonight. Thank you, Alma. Let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, including a man sentenced to more than 25 years in prison for a deadly crash in downtown Salem. 25-year-old Enrique Rodriguez Jr. pleaded guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter plus other charges after he drove drunk and crashed into a homeless camp last March. 4 people died, 2 others were hospitalized. Prosecutors say at the time Rodriguez's blood alcohol level was nearly 3 times the legal limit. 2 people are displaced. Another is in the hospital after a home in southeast Portland caught fire. When fire crews responded this morning to the property next to Powell Butte Nature Park, they say the flames were coming out of the basement. Officials say everybody inside the 2-story home was able to get out. No word yet on the cause. And a 2-mile stretch of Northwest Germantown Road has now reopened. PBOT was doing some preventative work over the last couple days between Skyline Boulevard and Northwest Bridge Avenue. Crews were clearing rock, soil, and other debris following recent heavy rains. Well, now to allegations of systemic animal neglect at Multnomah County's Animal Services Division. Former employees say the shelter has for years failed to meet care standards for the dogs and cats in its care, and when they've tried to bring it up, some workers say they have faced retaliation. Catherine Cook is here. Catherine, you just brought us a story on how too many animals and not enough staff forced the shelter to essentially push pause on taking in more strays for the first time ever. And tonight you've talked to 2 former employees with some serious allegations.
Yeah, David, they're frustrated. They say employees and volunteers deserve better, but their biggest concern is the animals. They're heartbroken by what they've seen. Animal Services has new management now and is promising change. Those we talked with are hopeful, but still have doubts.
This is Myrtle. You might be able to hear her snorting.
Kayla Popper loves her dog Myrtle and all animals. It's why she took a job as an animal care technician with Multnomah County Animal Services. But her love for animals is also why she left that job in November after just 1 year.
I don't think I went a single day without crying. The longer dogs stayed, the more you could see, the more you could see them deteriorate, the more you could, feel them getting frustrated, getting depressed, kind of going crazy.
Kayla says she and other employees raised their concerns with management, pointing to a shortage of staff and lack of support from supervisors, all while dealing with overcrowding.
There were so many of them and so few of us, and so little, support.
Just a lot of neglect.
Amy Previck is also a former care tech with Multnomah County Animal Services.
I just did not feel comfortable being a part of what I saw as inhumane treatment of animals.
She quit last January after 4.5 years. Both she and Kayla say there was a culture of retaliation toward employees.
The more I questioned it, the more I seemed to be out of favor with management.
The shelter has a history of falling below national standards for basic care, like keeping kennels clean, the animals fed, and access to exercise and mental stimulation. Those findings were noted in 2 county audits from 2016 and 2018. Kayla has read them both.
Not a lot different, and in some ways worse now.
Employees say the problems worsened when the shelter stopped in-person adoptions during the pandemic. Only on Wednesday, nearly 3 years later, did they reopen to the public after closing down for a full week to prepare.
This day has been a bit of a blur.
Erin Grayheck is the new director of Multnomah County Animal Services as of September. When asked about the complaints, she acknowledged the public's frustration with how things at the shelter have been run in the past, promising change.
I would, like to ask the readers and the viewers to take a leap of faith with me, and in some ways they have no reason to do that. Given, the things that were shared in the audit report.
Also Wednesday, new Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson called for a review of current practices at Animal Services to, quote, ensure we get to the root of the problems that have troubled our shelter operations and also ensure we don't find ourselves in this situation again.
Also, Catherine, are there any specific promises from the shelter or the county on what changes they plan to make here?
Well, David, Animal Services didn't really offer any specifics, but they did say they're looking for ways they can do things differently, and they say they're going to hold themselves accountable, and they're asking the community to do the same. Also, the county chair said their process will include input from community members, and they plan to share more information on that in the coming weeks.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate your reporting tonight. Let's get to a feeling of hope, but also measured skepticism in response to Governor Tina Kotek's first moves in office, most notably those 3 executive orders around housing and the homeless crisis. And while they're actions that have been widely welcomed, as Blair Best explains, many people say they will not celebrate until words turn into results.
The humanitarian crisis on our streets is front and center at the state capitol this week.
Executive Order number 2302 declares a state of emergency due to homelessness.
On her first full day in office Tuesday, Governor Tina Kotek signed 3 executive orders targeting the state's homelessness and housing crisis, including declaring a homelessness state of emergency.
It's a blue sky day, and our governor prioritized housing and homelessness on her first day. I'm feeling really optimistic.
The state of emergency applies to parts of the state like Portland, where Kaya Sand runs Street Roots, a nonprofit working directly with homeless people.
These are areas across the state that really need this. I would say the part that I think that we all need to stay vigilant on is that housing and homelessness have to be connected.
The emergency order affects areas of Oregon where the homeless population has increased by 50% or more from 2017 to 2022. There are 5 major areas affected, including the Portland Metro and the Willamette Valley. Governor Kotek also set a statewide goal of building 36,000 new housing units per year. Sand believes in order for this to work, the housing needs to be affordable for those who make 30% or below the median income, like Velma Carter, who lives off of about $20 a day.
If she's going to build more housing, how am I going to afford it? I'm tired of being cold.
Carter has been homeless on and off for about 5 years. She currently lives in an RV with her cat.
How is she actually going to get me into affordable housing?
She can't find available shelter and has applied for 43 jobs this month, with no response.
I've been lost in the system.
In an effort to find people like Carter, Governor Kotek announced a 3rd executive order directed at state agencies to prioritize reducing sheltered and unsheltered homelessness across Oregon.
People are currently becoming homeless faster than we have been able to rehouse people who are living outside.
I think that's very, very courageous of her, and I think we need more attention on this issue because there's plenty of us out here.
It is extremely reassuring, and I think every Portlander should be grateful that we have a governor that's thinking about Portland and thinking about the
Andrew Hone at Portland's Business Alliance argues the response to homelessness in the Rose City sets an example for the rest of the state.
We are the flagship city. We are the beating heart of its economy. It is absolutely essential that we remedy the situation here because that will translate into obvious systems to be able to fix the issues in other locations.
He's cautiously optimistic for what will come of all this.
And I think all of us are a little bit skeptical about, will this translate into action?
This is nuts.
A skepticism echoed by those living on the streets.
But, you know, words are empty. It's all about the actions. So we'll see what happens.
Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's office says the governor's executive orders are promising. The mayor says he now wants to learn more details as to how this state of emergency will affect Portland as they begin to ask for more homeless resources during this legislative session. Blair Best, KGW News.